Okay, I was talking recently about Muammar Gaddafi. Now I want to kind of connect the dots with Muammar Gaddafi and President Barack Obama and Minister Louis Farrakhan, the Nation of Islam, and when I was really impressed when Barack Obama was running for president, and the camera focused in on him, because I knew the Farrakhan question was going to come up. And how he handled it, it was just him and Hillary Clinton. How he handled it convinced me. He had convinced me before, but it convinced me that he could lead a nation. Because Minister Louis Farrakhan is a litmus test for a lot of people as to whether or not you are okay. And Barack Obama said this right on the stage next to Hillary Clinton. She said, "Are you willing to denounce Minister Louis Farrakhan?" He said, "Look, Minister Louis Farrakhan thinks I'm an okay guy. So I ain't got problems with the guy who thinks I'm an okay guy. If you want me to denounce him and renounce him, I'll do it. But I cannot not take his endorsement." And so I like the way Minister Louis Farrakhan handled the Barack president campaign, and how he's handling him as the first African American president, or so the one who is at least acknowledged that he's African American. And it says something about the evolution of American politics, I think. Now, Minister Farrakhan mentioned after the death of Muammar Gaddafi, he talked about the improvements in Libya that Mr. Gaddafi made, the improvements in health. He raised health standards better than any other third world country. That is significant. That he built a river and actually began to grow greenery in Libya. That he invested in education and in hospitals. So those are improvements. And yeah, people can do great things even though they act, wacky at the UN and all that kind of stuff. I mean, when you study leadership, here was a guy who was just a leader, and he did that. You cannot, as President Reagan said, you can't argue with success. It happened, it exists. Minister Louis Farrakhan mentioned that. But I'm going to read what he also said in a Final Call newspaper. It really struck me, and it directly relates to previously what I talked about in terms of gold dinar. That Minister Louis Farrakhan went over to Libya and assisted. He says, "I saw Qaddafi and his engineers." Qaddafi put money into education. I saw Qaddafi and his engineers. They found water in the desert. Libya is nothing but a desert. They found water in the desert. He brought water up from the desert way out in Benghazi, and brought that water from Benghazi almost to the border of Tunisia. Look it up. Look up Benghazi. Look up Tunisia. And I was one of those privileged to be there when the water started flowing. Gaddafi's hand, my hand, Ghana President Jerry Rawlings' hand, and another president. We hit the button together and the water flowed. Progress. Out of all the things that education should do, it should improve people's lives. And Gaddafi, you can't argue with that type of success. Now, what would the new coinage, the gold dinar, mean for merchant bankers and oil companies if Qaddafi said, "Okay, you're going to pay for all this oil I got under the sand. I got a bunch of sand, but I got a bunch of oil under the sand. And we're going to change the currency. We're going to change the devaluation." Now, who would oppose that? And guess who would be suffering? Western and European oil companies such as Anglo-Dutch Shell, British Petroleum, ExxonMobil, Hess Corporation, Marathon Oil, Occidental Petroleum, and ConocoPhillips, the Spanish Repsol, Germany's Wintershall, Austria's OMV, Norway's Statoil, Eni, and Canada's Petroleum Canada. They could still get oil. This is in the final call. But Brother Gaddafi would be in control of the fluctuation of production, so he could keep prices at a reasonable rate. And you got to trust that that could happen. But black people ran the world. There was a time when there was nothing but black people in the world. And we got along just fine, trading with one another. If if you need something, it's called the bartering system. And nothing in Europe, again, there's nothing but a bunch of islands, even in Japan, and they depend on trade for survival. But Gaddafi, even, he was just introducing a new currency and was probably at the precipice of changing the whole current system of the monetary system, probably rivaling the Federal Reserve System. I don't know. I don't know what it could be. I don't know, and you don't know. But this is what I do know, that a head of state was assassinated. And I think President Barack Obama did not pull the trigger, but he guided the gun when he let NATO go in there. And it's just sad that that came about. So where are we now? We have the prophetic message of Minister Louis Farrakhan, and prophets' messages do not change. The Amos, Hosea, Micah, Jeremiah, all the biblical prophets is in Islam, Judaism, Christianity. The message is still the same: justice. And what turns you against God is not your words, but your actions. And he was a head of state, and with a little bit of more, probably some brothers and sisters in the State Department, and a little bit more vigor, we could have saved his head of state, developed his ideal, revitalized the continent of Africa, revitalize trade in the Middle East. Whoever controls that Mediterranean Sea controls the world. And could you imagine, again, a country like Spain that was built on the Moors, the Arabs and Jews and Africans that so revolutionized learning in ancient Spain, the Moors. And we could do that again. But there is an anti-life in the world. There is a fire, a God of fire and brimstone and killing that is not going to last. So we're going to have to really think and revolutionize our values. How will we feed ourselves? How will we defend ourselves? How will we clothe ourselves? Who in our community, and I live in Detroit, who can make muddy water drinkable? Qaddafi was on that road, and I think that history is going to have to reassess his role, and we're going to have to reassess the role of President Barack Obama. But I love President Barack Obama. I support him, and but when you're a head of state, you have those types of foggy issues that you have to deal with. And I just trust that we come out of this thing with a little bit more peace in this world.